I was a broke Ugandan college student. My family lived in poverty. One day I met a billionaire South African arms dealer. He is the man everyone fear. Against the odds, I fell in love and we are getting married. This is part 5. If you're new here, I recommend starting the story from the beginning. He left for South Africa 2 days after we slept together. The goodbye wasn't dramatic. No speeches, no promises, just a hug that lasted 1 second too long. Like he was about to say something and swallowed it. I told myself grown people don't make scenes at airports. This was normal, mature. I walked back to campus feeling fine. That scared me more than if I'd cried. The taxi pulled up at an engine humming, yellow paint catching the harsh afternoon sun. Dust swirled around the tires. Luggage carts clattered somewhere inside the terminal. Thabo stepped out and gave me this smile. Brief, almost casual. But his eyes hesitated. A pause. Just a fraction of a second, but I caught it. My chest tightened without permission. The warmth of him lingered on my arms after the hug. I reminded myself immediately, don't dramatize this. He's busy. It's normal. Everything is normal. I kissed him, light, almost on impulse. Just the tip of his lips brushing mine, soft and fleeting. He didn't pull away, didn't deepen it either. Just let it happen. My body filed it away somewhere in the back of my mind as I stepped back. The taxi driver tapped the horn, impatient. No one else noticed. Thabo climbed in, settled into the seat, the door shut with a muted click. Be safe, I said. Voice calm. Ordinary. I will. Call me when you can. Neutral, practical, almost clipped. I watched him through the window as the taxi edged forward, merged into the crowded airport traffic, swallowed by heat and movement. That pause in his hug replayed in my head. Why that hesitation? Did he feel it too? No, don't overthink. Grown people leave without drama. I straightened my shoulders, hands clasped loosely in front of me, hiding the tremor I couldn't quite suppress. The sun was hot against my skin. Faint smells of petrol and dust. Luggage carts clattered again somewhere. Yellow taxis streaked past. Ordinary. Life. Indifferent. Nothing marked the significance of what we'd shared. The unspoken something that hung between us. I walked toward the Boda stand, counting coins in my hand. Practical. I didn't look back after the taxi turned the corner. Didn't want to. The ache in my chest softened into something manageable, a quiet weight I could carry without announcing. I told myself what I always told myself. This is normal. Everything is normal. Life moves on. The Boda dropped me at the edge of campus. Dust swirling, sun high and harsh, baking the pavement. I could hear campus life before I looked up. Students laughing, shoes scraping uneven paths, vendors shouting prices, bodas weaving between clusters of people. Everything was the same as it had always been, except I wasn't the same. My chest felt tight, a subtle ache that came uninvited. I forced my shoulders straight, rational, calm, normal. I walked past the first group of students. They didn't notice me, didn't need to. Life moved on without hesitation, and I moved with it. My fingers fidgeted with my bag strap, twisting the thin material in small, unconscious circles. My phone buzzed. I pulled it out. No message. I dropped it immediately, trying not to let the flutter in my stomach show. Stop thinking. Focus on the path. Keep walking. A vendor called out. Fresh chapati, just 200 shillings. Warm dough mixed with dust and sun-baked concrete. I nodded at her. Didn't stop. The flicker of sunlight off metal roofing. Scattered leaves stirred by heat and wind. Everything was muted. The hug at the airport, his body pressed close, that fraction of a second hesitation, the kiss that lingered longer in memory than in reality, followed me like a shadow. Lectures were beginning. Doors opened, voices spilling out, echoing across corridors. My stomach tightened again. Small, controlled tremors my mind insisted were normal. It's just walking back to school. Everything is normal. But my eyes kept flicking to my phone, not expecting anything, just checking, waiting quietly without realizing I was waiting. The heat pressed against my skin, sweat collecting along the back of my neck. I could taste dust in my mouth, faint tang of iron in my saliva. Streets were bright and busy, sun unforgiving, shadows short and sharp. Yet inside me, a strange stillness held, like a paused heartbeat. Something big had happened, and the world hadn't noticed. I passed familiar landmarks. The small gate to the library, edge of the basketball court where kids had started practice. a line of trees casting fleeting shade. I noticed the familiar cracks in the pavement, the way vendors stacked their goods, the way students' bags bounced against their shoulders. Everything was normal. But I wasn't. The hug, the kiss, the pause, they were my secret, unacknowledged by anyone but my chest, which refused to let them go. By the time I reached the hostel gate, I had slowed deliberately, composing myself. Hands at my sides, shoulders straight, eyes forward. No one could tell the quiet agitation beneath my calm exterior. Residual warmth still lingered from the goodbye. Rational calm still fought to keep the ache contained. I walked in, past the chatter and familiar smells of cooking fires and laundry drying on lines. This was the moment when waiting began, and I walked into it alone, carrying the hug, the kiss, the knowledge that life wouldn't pause, no matter how much I wanted it to. The first morning, I found myself walking between lectures with my phone in hand, thumb hovering over the screen, before remembering. Nothing yet. Nothing would come. It's rational. He traveled. He's busy. Adult responsibilities. Meetings. Flights. Sleep. Grown people are busy. I told myself this over and over, nodding at familiar faces like they could anchor the logic. Sarah nudged me lightly as we queued for lunch. "You okay?" I smiled, shrugged. "Yeah, just hungry." Her gaze lingered. Brief, but neutral. I kept it that way. No one needed to know how tight my stomach felt, how fast my pulse jumped at a vibration that wasn't him. By the second day, the silence had begun to weigh differently. Campus was unchanged. Vendors called out, students laughed, lecturers called names. The dusty path to the library still smelled faintly of fried chapati and sun-baked concrete. I queued at the cafeteria, tried to focus on my tray, on the rice and beans that tasted of routine. But every glance at my phone made my heart catch. Phone lights flashed. Not him. Not yet. Notification for a club meeting, reminder from the library, relief and disappointment tangled together. Calm. It's fine. I'm not waiting. Really. In the library, I sat at the same table I always took, notebooks spread, pen hovering over lines I barely read. My mind wandered, imagining what a message from him might say. Practical, neutral, warm, nothing demanding, nothing dramatic, just acknowledgement. My fingers tapped nervously on the table. I imagined pressing send, imagined him answering, imagined words that would feel too small for the warmth I was carrying inside. But I didn't. I never did. No. Grown people leave things unsaid. I corrected myself before the thought could spill further. By day 3, the pattern was quietly forming. Every corridor walk, every lunch queue, every library visit. Same rhythm. Glance at phone. Stomach tightens, breathe slowly. Rationalize. He's busy. He's fine. I'm fine. Ordinary campus life pressed around me, indifferent. But in the corners of my vision, I saw the spaces where his warmth had been. My body remembered the pause in his hug, the kiss at the airport, the heat of his chest against mine. My mind told me it was normal. But the memory throbbed, quiet, insistent. Ruth mentioned something in the hostel hallway one evening, blunt and careless. Some men just disappear, you know. Don't wait too long. I laughed lightly. I know. Inside, a spike of defensiveness hit me. My hands clenched my bag strap. No accusations, no naming it, self-correct, quiet, dignity intact. No one needed to know the ache that had already grown into habit. Even during lectures, my fingers twitched near my phone. Vibration phantom-like. Heart jumped at every distant buzz, followed by that small sinking disappointment when it wasn't him. I kept my posture straight, eyes on the board, notes taken mechanically. Sarah leaned over at one point, whispering a joke. I laughed, too quick, too high-pitched, correcting mid-breath. Nobody noticed, or maybe they did and didn't comment. Ordinary life continued. Campus life ignored the tiny, invisible weight forming inside me. By the end of the third day, I was aware of the pattern without naming it. Anticipation deferred, hope restrained, relief postponed. I hadn't spoken of him to anyone. Not Sarah, not Ruth, not Daniel, who had no role here. No one needed the truth. My phone remained the silent barometer. Every buzz, every glow, every gap in between, a small tide of private anxiety. It's fine. He's fine. I'm fine. Walking back to my hostel in the late afternoon sun, I realized my shoulders were tight. My steps measured. Waiting had begun, and I had already learned the first rule. Keep calm, correct yourself, endure quietly. The lecture hall smelled faintly of dust and cheap polish, sunlight cutting across wooden desks in sharp stripes. My notebook lay open in front of me, pen poised. But I wasn't writing. I could hear the scrape of chairs, soft shuffle of shoes on tile, low hum of classmates murmuring. Professor's voice droned somewhere in the background. Words just enough to fill the room, not enough to anchor me. And then it came, his hand. Just a flash, a fragment. The memory didn't announce itself. It was a brush of warmth on my back, the certainty in his touch that had grounded me 2 days ago. The way it had pressed for a second too long, like it wanted to say something but couldn't. My chest tightened immediately. My stomach fluttered. Small pulse of heat spreading from my core. I could feel my fingers tense around the pen. Stop. Don't replay it. Don't imagine the rest. Sit. Breathe. Logic reminded me. It's just a memory. Nothing more. My body didn't listen right away. My pulse lingered, a quiet echo of that certainty. The warmth lingered in my chest. I wanted to reach out, to search for him in the room, to find him somewhere in the edges of daylight and noise, but my mind corrected itself immediately. No, that is not here. That is not now. Someone brushed past my shoulder. I flinched slightly, too aware of the contact. My pen tapped against the desk without meaning. I looked down at my notes. The lecture continued. Pages turning, murmurs of students, a cough somewhere in the middle row. The memory cut off abruptly, jagged, like a film stopped mid-frame. I swallowed the ache, straightened my shoulders, forced my gaze to the professor at the front. My chest still carried the ghost of warmth. My fingers still trembled slightly against the pen. But externally, I was calm, ordinary. I caught my phone at the edge of my bag. Briefly, no messages, nothing from him. Relief, or maybe just rationality, told me it didn't matter. I returned my attention to the monotone voice of the lecture. The sunlight caught the edge of my notebook. Faint dust motes dancing in the streaks, the ordinary world kept moving. My body still remembered. My mind corrected itself. Self-correction again. By the time the professor asked a question, I had written one word on the page. My pen scratched quietly, tapping between letters as my thoughts flickered back to the memory for a heartbeat, then pushed away immediately. Hands remembered what the mind refused to name. I kept my posture composed, my breath even, my eyes on my notes, not on the space where he had been. The warmth lingered in the background. The quiet ache simmered under the surface. But I didn't speak it. I didn't reach. I didn't move. My classmates, the chairs scraping, the pages turning, they all kept life going as if nothing had happened. And I, too, kept going, keeping it contained, letting the memory flash and fade like it belonged to someone else, like I could be present and detached at the same time. By the time the lecture ended, I had packed my bag, adjusted my shoulders, walked out into the sunlight without letting anyone see the way my chest still ached with the imprint of a hand, a touch, a certainty that had already begun to shape my waiting. That night I sat at my desk, books open, pages unturned. The lamplight cast a thin, warm glow over the surface, illuminating the neat lines of my notes, but failing to make them interesting. Outside, the campus hummed softly, distant laughter, a bike rattling along the street, voices carried faintly by the night air. My phone lay face down beside me, silent, blank, a quiet promise unfulfilled. I stared at it for a while, letting my fingers drum lightly on the edge of the desk, then picked it up and set it down again, slower this time, as if prolonging the ritual. Clock ticked, tick, 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 each second a reminder that something had changed, though nothing had been said. You don't disappear after that. The thought rose unbidden, unwelcome, tight in my chest, not forming in my stomach. My hands curled around the edges of my notebook. My breaths were shallow. I heard my own heartbeat behind my ribs. Stop. Nothing is promised. You agreed to this silence. Rationality tried to anchor me. He's busy. He's distant for reasons I don't know. Nothing is cruel. Nothing is betrayal. I shouldn't think like this. The words formed in my mind, jagged, hesitant. We didn't define anything. None of this carries a label. None of this requires expectation. Still, the body remembered warmth, fingers brushing, the heat of his chest when we were together, the quiet certainty of the night we shared. The mind protested, but the stomach tightened anyway, betraying me. I imagined him saying something small, something warm, "Hope you're okay." But there was only silence. I set the phone face down again, letting it rest on the desk, allowing the blank screen to symbolize the pause between us. The stillness weighed heavier than I admitted. I adjusted my posture, straightened a page, folded my hands over the notebook. A sigh came, silent, swallowed before it left my lips. The night smelled faintly of hostile detergent, mixed with dry air drifting through the open window. My pen felt heavy in my hand, the desk slightly sticky from years of use. I could taste my own dry throat, unmoistened tea beside me untouched. Fingers drummed once more, lightly, then stilled. I glanced out the window, seeing nothing, just shadows of other students moving through the night. Life continued, oblivious to the quiet storm inside me. Compose yourself. It is acceptable. Silence is not failure. Discipline is necessary. No accusations, no demands, no dramatic words. Self-correction came immediately. Firm, habitual. I was training myself without knowing it, learning to carry the weight of waiting quietly. First real weight. First recognition that absence matters emotionally. I contained it. I adjusted my shoulders, straightened my spine. Calm exterior, tight interior. The clock continued its slow, measured ticking. Phone face down, books untouched. Lamplight artificial and steady. Outside, life carried on, indifferent to the tension pressing in my chest. I felt the beginning of a pattern forming, the first invisible threads of private endurance, the small rules I would follow. Wait, contain, do not reach out, correct before reacting, sustain without being seen. I closed my eyes for a second, imagining him Thabo, somewhere far, warm, unaware of the heaviness gathering here. I opened them again. The page remained blank, the phone silent. I placed my hands on the desk, straightened my notebook one last time, let the quiet settle over me. The tension remained, simmering, unresolved. I was aware. I was disciplined. I was waiting anyway. I was walking back from class, bag slung over one shoulder, feeling the slow warmth of late afternoon sun on my neck. The campus smelled faintly of dry grass and fried cassava from the vendors near the library. Students passed by in little clusters, laughing, arguing, rushing to labs. I barely noticed them. My thoughts were on nothing and everything at once. The quiet rhythm of waiting settling into my chest like a small stone I carried without complaining. Then my phone buzzed. I stopped mid-step. The vibration felt sudden, like a pulse through my hand. I pulled it out. The screen lit up, casting a glow over my fingers. "Hey, hope you're okay." Just that. 6 words. Nothing else. No context. No explanation. No schedule for a call. My chest softened immediately. The tightness in my stomach eased like someone had released a hand I hadn't realized was gripping my ribs. I swallowed, aware my lips were twitching into a small, unconsciously foolish smile. I glanced around, as if the world outside could see the tremor of relief curling inside me. People walked past, chatting, ignoring me. The leaves on the nearby jacaranda trees swayed slightly in the breeze. Life was ordinary, and continuing. And yet, inside me, the world tilted a little, just for those 6 words. This is nothing, and yet, it's everything. I rested my phone against my thigh, fingertips lingering on the cool glass. My shoulders let out a slow, quiet exhale I didn't know I was holding. I bit the inside of my lip, embarrassed at the intensity of relief I felt. A part of me scolded silently, "It's just a short message. It shouldn't matter so much." But my body didn't listen. My heart had already accelerated. A warm flush spread across my chest. The words repeated in my head like a small mantra. "Hey, hope, you're okay." I read them again, imagining the person behind them smiling, the casual warmth hiding all the distance and silence. My chest felt light for the first time in days. My mind corrected itself. Don't read too much into it. It's minimal. He's busy. It's just a message. But still, I felt it, a spike of hope that wasn't supposed to exist. I tucked the phone into my bag slowly, keeping my hands over it for a moment longer than necessary, savoring the ordinary sensation of its weight. The campus continued around me, laughing voices, the rattle of bicycle chains, the distant thrum of a boda, completely unaware of the small earthquake inside my chest. And just like that, hope returned without permission. Quiet, careful, stubborn. Waiting had its first reward, small and disproportionate, and I carried it with me as I walked the last stretch back to the hostel, a gentle, private acknowledgement that silence could be broken, that even a single brief message could matter more than it had any right to. The campus was loud and ordinary, as if nothing had shifted at all. Students jostled past me between lectures, backpacks swinging, chapati frying in small street stalls that lined the road, vendors shouting their prices. I walked with my bag strap pressing against my shoulder, hands twisting it absent-mindedly. My phone stayed tucked in my pocket, face down, but I felt it there, heavy with potential. My chest tightened, just a little, a reflex, almost imperceptible. But my body remembered him even when my mind whispered, "It's fine. He's busy. This is normal." I passed couples laughing by the lecture hall stairs, their casual touches and whispered jokes striking me like a shadow I couldn't name. I forced my eyes forward, tried to focus on Sarah as she waved at me. "Did you finish the assignment?" she asked, cheerful and insistent. I nodded, muttered something vague. She didn't notice the tight pull in my stomach, the way my hand drifted toward my pocket before remembering nothing had arrived. Another day, another quiet. By late afternoon, I was in the library. Dusty sunlight streaked the floor, warmed the pages of the book I pretended to read. My fingers drummed the desk. Eyes flicked to the phone every few minutes. Then it buzzed, small, unassuming. "Hope your lecture went well." I read it once, twice, then tucked the phone away. My stomach loosened. Relief bloomed. Just a flicker, almost shameful in its intensity. Sunlight and shadow, my mind whispered. He's busy. This is nothing unusual. But still, my heart gave a tiny jump. Classes continued. Notes were taken. Voices droned over the chalkboard. I spoke when I needed to. Answered a question about the assignment. Laughed at Ruth's comment about campus boys. But the warmth had already receded. The message lingered behind my ribs, a quiet insistence. Later, nothing. Silence returned. The pattern became rhythm. Absence, attention, warmth, absence again. My body started to anticipate it. Tight stomach at morning, release at message, flush of embarrassment at relief. Mind whispered explanations. Adult men are busy. He's not avoiding me. This is normal. I didn't call him. I didn't ask. I didn't initiate anything. My hands twitched at the desk, pen rolling between my fingers, bag strap twisting again. Small movements, small signals. My posture slouched just a fraction when days passed without a ping. I noticed other moments, trivial yet piercing. A laugh from Daniel across the hall during a project discussion, a girl dropping her books with a loud clang. The campus smelled of dust, sweat, and frying chapati. My fingers traced the edge of the notebook as if it could anchor me while my body remained attentive to absence. He was not here, and yet I carried him in the small rhythms of my day. Sarah's chatter grounded me. "You'll finish that by tonight, right?" she said, brushing off my distracted nod. Ruth offered a sideways glance about boys. They never text back properly, do they? She didn't know. I didn't tell her. I didn't tell anyone. Containing it was easier, safer, necessary. By nightfall, walking back to the hostel, phone in my hand but still quiet, I realized the shape of things. The pattern had formed. Absence meant nothing to say, nothing expected. Presence came in brief, carefully measured pulses. My body had learned the rhythm before my mind could even explain it. I didn't name it. I didn't speak it. But I knew. Waiting had its own weight, its own quiet training. And I was adapting. Another day would come. Another message might arrive. Another silence would follow. And I would carry on, composed, careful, quietly attentive, practicing the patience that would eventually define me. The library smelled faintly of dust and boiled tea. Morning sunlight slanted through the windows, sharp, warm stripes across the tables. I carried my notebook and pen as if they were shields, moving between rows of students absorbed in quiet murmurs and the shuffling of pages. Sarah waved at me from the corner table, her grin bright, like the ordinary world hadn't shifted at all. "You've been studying nonstop? You're gonna ace this," she said. Light. Teasing. I smiled and nodded, careful to let laughter spill just enough to seem natural, to anchor myself to the world, not to him. Inside, my chest tightened for a fraction of a second, a subtle coil of unease my hands tried to dissipate by fidgeting with the edge of a notebook. "Don't let anyone see it. Keep it small." The voice in my head was precise, clipped, the way I liked it. My body hummed with the leftover warmth of him, the memory of his attention, the brief comfort of his presence. But outwardly I arranged papers, answered questions, explained a formula to the group, passed borrowed notes to the classmate who'd misplaced hers. Everything looked ordinary. Nothing was unusual. I laughed again when Sarah made a small joke about our late-night cramming, the sound deliberate, measured, testing the safety of genuine reaction. My fingers tightened briefly around my pen, a subtle, unconscious acknowledgement that inside I was still waiting. For what? I didn't ask. I didn't think. The phone rested against my thigh, silent, dark, a tiny black weight. Every now and then my eyes drifted to it, just long enough to notice it hadn't buzzed, hadn't glowed. Then I turned back to the notes, to the equations, to the people around me. The library felt empty in the way ordinary spaces do when your mind is elsewhere. The tick of the wall clock, the scrape of chairs, the faint shuffle of feet across polished tiles, they all reminded me that life continued, indifferent. My shoulders stayed straight, my posture neat, my voice calm. My mind cataloged every flicker of warmth or attention from others, weighing it, managing it. I noticed a slight flutter in my stomach when someone complimented my organization, the tiniest surge of pride that I quickly folded into my practiced calm. We moved to the hostel common room after the library. I helped someone locate a missing notebook, arranged chairs for group discussion, laughed when another minor joke floated through the air. The world outside my chest remained ordinary, bustling, full of small human noise. Nothing touched the quiet ache of waiting that had settled behind my ribs. I reminded myself silently, don't chase, don't ask, contain it. Smile, answer, help, move. Even as I carried the exterior, the internal hum persisted. Every routine action, the passing of notes, the careful explanation of a problem, the polite laughter, was anchored by the weight of absence. I was functioning, competent, grounded. But the body disagreed with the mind in subtle ways, a quickening of the pulse when my phone almost buzzed, a slight clench of the stomach at Sarah's warmth, a hollow flicker when someone mentioned Thabo in passing. Fleeting. Unspoken. Immediately suppressed. By the time I returned to my room, the sun was higher, the hostel alive with chatter and cooking smells. But I moved between tables and corridors with a quiet, contained grace. Publicly, I was calm, attentive, helpful. Privately, I carried the simmering awareness of my own overinvestment, the disproportionate weight of a silence I had learned to normalize. The group saw a student performing perfectly. I knew the truth. The performance itself was a shield, a way to survive the uncertainty, a way to wait quietly without anyone noticing. And still, I wondered, will I always be this composed? Will the body ever stop whispering what the mind refuses to say? For now, I tucked the notebook under my arm, held my pen loosely, walked past the cluster of chatting students. Smiling, helping, pretending everything was ordinary. The hostel was quiet. The soft yellow glow of the lamp cast long shadows across my bed and desk, painting the room in muted gold. Outside, faint streetlights flickered over the courtyard, a distant car horn, a muffled laugh from someone wandering campus late, the soft whir of the small fan struggling to keep the warm air moving. I picked up my phone from the side table. Nothing. No messages. Not even the familiar scene from a week ago. The battery was almost dead. For a moment, I considered letting it die completely, a temporary reprieve from waiting. I put it on charge, curling my legs under me on the bed, stared at the empty desk. The textbook lay open, words swimming past my eyes, ignored. I picked up my prayer book, ran my finger along the lines, read a few, closed it. My chest felt hollow. Tight, subtle tension ran through my hands. My stomach had that familiar pull of quiet awareness. Something my mind insisted I could explain, rationalize away. Distance is normal. Adult life is like this. He's busy. He has responsibilities. And yet, my body remembered. The warmth of his hand on my back when he held me. The timbre of his voice. Low, careful, just for me. A flicker behind my eyes and I sat a little straighter, shifting the sheets around me, tucking my hair behind my ear, stretching, trying to shake it off. Stop overthinking. Nothing has changed. Don't give this power to silence. The sweater I had worn last when we'd been together sat folded on the chair. I avoided it. I traced the phone cord with my fingers instead, twisting it around a few times, releasing it, twisting again, the hum of the fan, the low light, the faint scent of notebook pages and perfume lingering from earlier, they all pressed against me. Ordinary and yet not ordinary. Charged with everything I wasn't saying. It's normal, I whispered inside my head. He's busy. I'm overthinking. Still, the tightness in my stomach wouldn't let me forget. I glanced at the door. No footsteps, no messages, just quiet. The night settling around me. My body refused the full assurance my mind gave so easily. The contradiction throbbed softly, like a secret pulse, a reminder of what I had felt and couldn't entirely hide, even from myself. I breathed slowly, deep sighs that never left my lips, eyes flicking once, twice, toward the window, toward the phone, toward nothing. Every rational thought countered by a bodily whisper, you remember, you still feel. But I silenced it. I always silenced it. Logic said, it's just distance. It's just silence. Quiet acceptance. Self-correction. Private protection. My body disagreed, but I didn't argue. Night wore on, the fan whirred, the lamp flickered slightly, shadows stretching and collapsing. I sat on the bed, legs tucked under me. Textbook closed, prayer book set aside, phone charging and silent. Calm on the surface, simmering underneath. Waiting had become a quiet companion, and I held it close, just far enough away that no one could see how sharply it pressed. And even as I reminded myself, he's busy. It's normal. Nothing has changed. The ache in my stomach lingered, a reminder that the heart and mind were not always allies. Logic could explain absence. Logic could explain silence. But my body remembered more than my mind wanted to admit. And for now, that was enough. The lamp on my desk cast a small circle of yellow light, barely reaching the corners of my hostel room. Outside, the night was warm, humid, carrying faint laughter and the occasional footstep on the corridor. I kept my desk neat, notebook closed, but fingers tracing its edges, the paper slightly rough beneath my fingertips. Tea steamed gently in a chipped cup, the warmth seeping through my palms, grounding me. My phone lay face down beside it. No messages. The screen stayed dark. I did not check it again. I told myself it was fine. I was fine. Nothing was wrong. My chest tightened briefly at the thought of him, Thabo, and then relaxed, as if my body, too, had learned the rhythm of waiting. I could feel it in my shoulders, the subtle tension that eased and returned with my shallow breaths. Calm on the outside, quietly alert on the inside. A contradiction I had come to know intimately. The memory of his presence lingered, like a warm, unfinished echo. I could almost hear the cadence of his voice, his casual, call me when you can, the brush of his hand as he held me briefly. I imagined it, felt it, then pushed it down before it could grow loud. This is normal. This is survivable. I can manage this. I always have. I sipped my tea and let my gaze drift to the window. The campus lights were faint, distant, ordinary. Yet every shadow seemed charged with absence. My fingers moved along the notebook edges again, tracing the corners, pressing lightly, a tactile anchor instead of the touch I wanted to feel elsewhere. No one would see it. No one needed to. It was mine to hold, and mine alone. A thought arose. Quiet, almost unbearable in its honesty. If this disappears, I'll have to pretend it didn't matter. My stomach twisted, but only for a second. A flicker of what it might feel like if he never reached out. I corrected myself internally. I'm not panicking. This is fine. I can wait. I can always wait. I don't know what I would say if anyone asked. I can't define it. I won't. Time passed slowly, measured only by the faint hiss of the night air through the open window and the occasional distant laughter. I straightened the desk slightly, moving pens into neat lines, a small ritual to keep the world at bay. To manage the waiting without speaking, without asking, without revealing the weight of what I felt. My eyes returned to the lamp, to the small, constant circle of light. Safe, steady, private, mine. And somewhere beneath the calm, beneath the rationalizations, the unspoken question throbbed quietly, relentless. Did this matter to him the way it mattered to me? I did not say it. I would not say it. But it existed, folded into the corners of the night, pressing softly against my chest, reminding me of the pattern I had learned. To wait, to contain, to carry the warmth and the ache alone. I leaned back against the bed, still composed, still breathing slowly, tea now cool in my hands. My fingers lingered on the notebook once more before resting in my lap. The lamp glowed. The night whispered around the hostel walls. And I sat with the quiet truth. I was not heartbroken. I was not secure. I was not free. I was waiting, emotionally contained, attached in silence, suspended between hope and the unspoken, and ready to endure it a little longer.